Great, real privilege to be here. It was great when Diane called me and said, would you like to talk about a dead white guy, because they're not really talked about much in cultural discourse. So I picked this one to talk about. So Frank Zappa, the visionary avant-garde musician and composer who died in 1993, making a rare foray into management theory now for the purposes of illustration. So he said, Frank said, it all relates in some weird way back to the focal point of what's going on. So conceptual continuity is an artistic doctrine conceived and applied by Frank Zappa. The theory is grounded in the idea that the experiences and work of an artist, and for our purposes today, arts organisations, form parts of a binding goal and a narrative that can be traced through their work. In Barry Miles's biography of Zappa, he explains how this way of working became Zappa's project-object concept. The idea that each project is part of a larger object, an overall body of work, in which every individual piece is changed, if only slightly, by the addition of a new part. So what this means when applied to cultural organisations is the alignment of every facet of operations to match the vision and mission, bringing the same distinctive qualities to customer experience, the way staff work, the way the building's presented, everything, the same qualities that are also brought to the artistic programme. So seeing the way that we run cultural organisations as a whole entity, and not just about particular facets of it. So here's a quote which is, since I first read it, has always interested me about this subject. So this is from someone called Jake Orr, who wrote a blog, Why Everything Matters, a young theatre blog. This is from 2010. So he says, if we've travelled a terrible journey, had trouble collecting our tickets, find the drinks overpriced, the programme lacking in anything but advertisements, and our seat anything but comfy, we just might not enjoy the show. Of course, I would hope that the show I'm attending would have the ability to knock me sideways. Yet we all know that sometimes that sensational theatre experience isn't to be had every time we go to the theatre. Let it be clear, every little thing we encounter en route to our seat matters. And then there was quite an interesting anonymous reply to that, clearly from someone who works in theatre, to the reply on this blog. And they say, what matters really depends on who you are and what stake you have in the production. If you're a venue, then obviously the audience experience can be as important as the work they are seeing. If you're a director, however, you hope that the power of what you're putting on stage is sufficient to capture the audience's attention, immerse them in the story and the experience of what you've created, and leave behind any of the everyday niggles that human beings inevitably encounter. So there are two very different perspectives on the importance of the non-artistic factors of an arts organisation. But is it enough just to make good work? To make and present good work within the arts? I would argue that you have to have distinctive and be operating effectively in all of your processes and activities as well. And I think that is a responsibility of arts leaders, even if you're leading on the art form, to see that through across an organisation. Everything an arts organisation does affects its brand and how it's differentiated from competitors. Realising the forceful pull towards the generic is a challenge which cultural leaders must overcome to succeed and for their endeavours to have real meaning. What's the point in having too many arts organisations within a small geographical area making and presenting very similar work most of the time? You know, why is that okay? Arts organisations compete for funding, audiences, media coverage and esteem. Michael Porter's key work on competition resonates in the cultural sector as much as it does in the corporate sector. His definition of differentiation, in other words, what makes your company different and better, and the case he makes for it being at the heart of businesses' success against competitors, are tools that we should be more readily using in this industry. So here's an example. There are several public galleries sited along the Kent and Sussex coasts, including Turner Contemporary, Delaware Pavilion, Jerwood Hastings and Towner Eastbourne. They were once grandly coined the String of Pearls by the Arts Council, which isn't the name I would have given to them, but it's that's what they're known as collectively, so there we are. Interestingly, when Delaware Pavilion proposed to do an exhibition of Ladybird book covers in 2015 called Ladybird by Design, including things like that, several directors of other galleries strongly expressed the view that they didn't think this was a very good idea. I suspect the basis of their concern was that lots of people might come and see it and they might enjoy it. In a cluster of galleries that do modern and contemporary programs all of the time, it's revealing that diverging into wider visual culture for just one exhibition in a 3-year artistic program was so strongly objected to. You know, does it really hurt to have one exhibition like this among 4 galleries in a 3-year period? And surprise, surprise, it was a remarkable success for the Delaware Pavilion. It smashed all of their attendance records. All the commercial income they made in that period of time was a record for them. The Auteur's touch should permeate all areas of business, from the artistic program to who makes up its staff and the entire customer experience. All of it matters. Arts organisations have their own identity and distinctiveness, derived from their history and from the core assets they have, including buildings, where they're located and so forth. The key to truly differentiating, though, comes from the taste and personality of the chief executive stroke artistic director being expressed in what the organisation does and how it does it. In order to achieve this, there should be a complete synchronisation among all of the organisation's activities and structures, something that's much easier to talk about than it is actually to do, and total consistency of each operational detail. In Mary Allen's A Divided House, which is the absolute manual on how not to run an arts organisation and how they fall apart, and I recommend reading it because it's a very interesting study from that point of view, which documents the near collapse of the Royal Opera House in 1997. Allen explains how the only way in which the organisation can begin to heal its differences and start to function properly is if it unites behind a really senior, heavy-hitting artistic director of international stature. The management needs to be led by someone who's responsible for executing the business of the organisation, putting on opera and ballet in this case, and who leads by imposing his or her weight of experience. So the emphasis of that quote is very clearly on larger organisations, but I think what's true about it universally is the need for compelling artistic lead who puts the imprint of their personality on an organisation, and that's seen through all of its activities. So really this is brand theory, and it's seeing the director in film terms, it's auteur theory, the director. Crucially therefore, a leader must first be effective in communicating their personal vision. They must be resourceful and ready to reform or discontinue the activities and structures that do not adhere to the core mission and values of the organisation. And of course, the mission and values of the organisation can change at any time when it's appropriate for them to do so. But while they are in place, everything should be coherently aligned with them. So how is conceptually continuous differentiated arts organisation achieved? So these are some of my hacks. Now we've heard a lot today, quite rightly, about being kind, about being nice to people, and those things are very important. And notwithstanding that, I'm still going to make this point, okay? So don't work with people who don't share your vision or who are negative, okay? And that might be after a process of trying to make that work and all other things. There are lots of caveats with this, but overall, I've never ever regretted anything about taking action about that, except delaying doing so, okay? Second hack, dare to be different through positive differentiation. Don't follow all of the standard practices of your art form and scale. Okay, the reason we run arts organisations is not to show what we do to people who do the same job as us in other arts organisations, you know? And I think that was what was so revealing. There are 100 examples of it. What was so revealing about that Ladybird example is all the saying, oh no, you shouldn't have that. It was just very, very telling, because it didn't fundamentally undermine the integrity of the artistic offer of to do one thing once. It was just extreme. It was such a strong reaction against it. Communicate your distinctiveness clearly. If you use the same language as every other cultural organisation, the distinctiveness you have in your artistic programme will be lost. There's an incredible theme of generic communication, a generic way of writing about work to audiences that we all tend to follow. And if you can break that down somehow and be distinctive in the way it's expressed, that will be very beneficial. Make sure the customer experience receives as much care and is as good as the art that you make and present. Compete. You want to make your organisation more successful and better loved than the others. Difficult territory, this competition, isn't it? Because it's such a collegiate industry that we work in. But we're competing for everything with each other all the time. Continue to improve. So the Kaizen, the Japanese doctrine of continual improvement, what can we continue to improve all the time about our organisations? Keep realigning everything your organisation does with your mission and vision, all the time. It's relentless. So in other words, imagine you're starting a religious sect in California based on your personality, and put a brilliant and a distinctive artistic program on top of it. I mean, that's it, in essence, really. Yeah. Yeah. I mean that, but underneath I don't really mean it. But underneath that, I really do mean it. You know, it has lots of layers to it. Pure conceptual continuity doesn't rank stakeholders in order of importance, you know. So that's a secondary concern. If you're doing the right thing for the right reasons, you're doing it well across everything, that takes care of itself, okay? So, in conclusion, we always need an acronym thing. So I've developed one around Zappa. So today Clore, tomorrow Harvard Business School, okay? They're going to be adopting this. So the Zappa assessment model. So 0 exceptions, nothing is accepted from this doctrine. Everything will be relentlessly realigned. Which leads to the second one, alignment, total alignment with the vision and mission, which you can refresh. Pedantic, ruthless attention to detail. Precise, the importance of the accuracy of alignment, so nothing off-brand, ever. I remember once a finance manager I worked with had the audacity to have a red mug for the coffee in a gallery I worked in, and the director just threw it away. So, even in the staff kitchen, a heretical red mug was not tolerated. It had to be white because that was the brand. That's what we were doing. Anyway, interesting that. All times, never deviate from this particular strategy. That's not really going to make it into the canon of management theory. Okay. So really the question is, and I'm being frivolous of course, but then again I'm not, do you want to fail in front of your peers, your family, the press? Do you wish to bankrupt a much-loved creative company? Drive audiences away? Present an artistic program that makes no impact? Do you aspire to bore, to mismanage, to be irrelevant and generic? To be known by the whole world and everyone you've ever known as useless? Or do you want to succeed in the arts and, if you've been very honest with yourself, indulge in the dark pleasure of schadenfreude towards those who fail? I don't mean that. I don't know. But underneath I do. Thanks for your time. Thank you.